Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Even the strongest fortress must open its gates to let the wind in. That's the paradox of the Sigma male, a man who builds emotional walls so high that even heaven would need clearance to enter. Yet, there are rare, almost mythical moments when the armor clinks, when the control slips, and when the man who calculates every move simply feels. Psychologists say people with hyper-independence often carry it as a scar, not a trait, a response to betrayal, manipulation, or exhaustion from pretending to belong. But Sigmas? They turned that scar into a language, a silent one. They don't speak it, they live it. Still, even the most self-contained mind has cracks that light leaks through. And when it happens, it's not weakness, it's revelation. You'll never catch a Sigma oversharing at brunch or crying over missed texts. That's not their brand of openness. Their vulnerability appears in fleeting coded forms. A sudden laugh they didn't plan, a stare that lingers too long, or a small silence that says too much. And if you've ever wondered what truly makes a Sigma drop his guard, not the Hollywood nonsense or the pseudo-alpha posturing, then brace yourself. Because what you're about to hear isn't about power, it's about the moments the powerful forget they have any. Now, let's strip the myth bare. Carefully, of course. Sigmas hate being undressed without consent. Number 1, when they realize someone can leave without needing them. For a Sigma male, control isn't about domination, it's about balance. He thrives on emotional independence, and he expects the same from others. He's drawn to people who don't cling, who can hold their own ground. But there's a hidden irony in that strength. He secretly believes that everyone who stays in his life does so because something in him quietly anchors them. It's not arrogance, it's his way of believing that presence must equal purpose. So when someone he values simply walks away, not in anger, not with drama, but in peace, it hits him like a silent earthquake. There's no explosion, no scene, just the calm realization that someone he respected, maybe even admired, can exit his world without any emotional debt. That kind of detachment cuts deeper than betrayal ever could. Betrayal gives him something to fight against. Peaceful departure gives him nothing to hold on to. In that moment, the Sigma's composure fractures, not visibly, but internally. He starts replaying the relationship like a mental film, not to blame, but to understand. What went unspoken? What did he miss? It's not regret he feels, but a sharp awareness that control means nothing when another person's self-sufficiency equals his own. It humbles him. It reminds him that emotional dominance isn't power. It's an illusion. The real power lies in being able to walk away without needing closure, approval, or validation. And that lesson, though painful, recalibrates him. For once, the Sigma doesn't hide behind logic. He doesn't mask it with stoicism. He sits with the silence and learns from it. Because in that rare confrontation with loss that asks for nothing, he sees a mirror of himself. Someone who can love deeply, stay fully, and still leave freely. And strangely, that realization doesn't weaken him. It purifies him. It strips away the ego and leaves behind something raw, human, and real. The kind of strength that doesn't demand control, just respect. Number 2, when they finally stop hiding their tenderness from themselves. A Sigma male's strength has never been in his muscles or money. It's in his emotional discipline. He's mastered the art of control so completely that even his feelings go through a filter before they surface. Every emotion is examined, justified, and filed away with precision. Love becomes logic. Compassion becomes caution. He calls it maturity, but deep down it's self-protection in disguise. There comes a quiet point, though, when that control starts to feel like a cage. He begins to notice how exhausting it is to analyze everything he feels before he allows himself to feel it. He catches himself brushing off moments of warmth or connection, dismissing them as weakness. And then one day, something shifts, not because of a person, but because of the weight of years spent pretending that tenderness is dangerous. In that moment, he doesn't collapse. He exhales. He stops editing his humanity. He lets the truth of who he is breathe without strategy. The man who spent years being the calm in every storm suddenly lets the storm pass through him without fear. It's not about tears or grand gestures. It's the quiet acceptance that feeling deeply doesn't make him any less formidable. What makes this moment rare is that he doesn't drop his guard for someone else. He does it for himself. For once, he doesn't perform emotional restraint to maintain an image or outsmart vulnerability. He feels simply because he's tired of fighting himself. And that's where real strength begins. Not in cold detachment, but in self-acceptance. He realizes that his tenderness isn't a threat to his power. It's what makes his power real. It gives depth to his silence and purpose to his solitude. When a Sigma finally stops hiding his softness, the world doesn't suddenly understand him, but he finally understands himself. And in that self-understanding, he becomes untouchable in a way no armor ever made him. Number 3. When they witness a moment too pure to manipulate. There's a stillness that comes over a Sigma male when he faces something untouched by human agenda. He's a master at reading motives, decoding patterns, and anticipating outcomes. His mind is a constant chessboard. But once in a while, life throws him something that can't be calculated, bought, or controlled. A moment so pure it defies his logic and humbles his dominance. It could be a stranger's act of kindness with no reward in sight, a child laughing without reason, or the quiet force of nature showing power without pride. These things don't ask to be understood. They simply exist. And for a Sigma, who's built a life around precision and self-reliance, that kind of purity disarms him. It strips him of his mental armor and makes him remember what it's like to just be, not to control, not to analyze, but to witness. In that stillness, something rare happens. His instinct to lead, to predict, to stay ahead, fades into awe. He stops trying to bend reality to his will and lets it move him instead. The strategist in him goes quiet, and the human in him wakes up. He realizes that not everything powerful needs to be mastered. Some things are meant to be felt. This is one of the few times he doesn't fight vulnerability. He doesn't rationalize it or turn it into philosophy. He just allows the moment to exist as it is, and in doing so, he reconnects with the part of himself that's been buried under years of emotional discipline, the part that still believes in goodness, in sincerity, in the beauty of things untouched. When a Sigma witnesses something too pure to manipulate, his dominance doesn't disappear, it transforms. It turns from control into reverence, from authority into appreciation. For once, the man who sees through everything chooses to simply see, and that's the closest he ever gets to peace. Number 4. When they lose interest in winning. For most of their lives, Sigma males play the game differently. They don't crave recognition, applause, or dominance for its own sake. They chase mastery. They play to understand the system, not to impress the spectators. Winning is just the natural result of their precision. But even that has a limit. There comes a point when the game itself stops feeding them, when every win feels repetitive, predictable, and empty. In those moments, a strange stillness takes over. The Sigma male, who's always known exactly what to do next, suddenly pauses. Not out of confusion, but out of clarity. He starts to see how every pursuit, every victory, every intellectual conquest has been another way to distract himself from the deeper question, why am I even playing? That realization hits harder than any loss could. because for the Sigma, meaning has always mattered more than momentum. When that meaning disappears, his armor falls away. He no longer needs to be the smartest in the room, the calmest in chaos, or the one who always has the upper hand. In that rare space between purpose and apathy, he becomes raw, unguarded, profoundly human. He stops calculating and starts feeling. He starts noticing life beyond achievement, the quiet details, the small truths, the rare moments that don't need to lead anywhere. He finds value in stillness instead of motion, in peace instead of victory. And that shift isn't weakness, it's evolution. Losing interest in winning doesn't make the Sigma male passive, it makes him free. Free from expectation, competition, and the endless need to prove his worth. It's the moment when he finally realizes that mastery isn't about conquering others, it's about mastering himself. And in that calm surrender, the Sigma stops being a player in the game. He becomes something rarer, the man who no longer needs to play to know he's already won. Number 5. When they meet someone who sees their loneliness. Without naming it for the Sigma male, solitude isn't a phase, it's a way of survival. He's learned to rely on himself so completely that loneliness stopped feeling like emptiness and started feeling like control. He doesn't crave crowds, validation, or emotional babysitting. What he does crave, though he'd never admit it, is understanding. Someone who gets the silence without needing to fix it. Most people misinterpret his distance. They assume he's cold, detached, or arrogant. What they don't realize is that the Sigma's silence isn't rejection. It's protection. He's seen how people weaponize vulnerability, how comfort turns into control. So he learned to keep his emotions private, even when the room is full. Then rarely, he meets someone different, someone who doesn't pry or perform empathy. They don't ask invasive questions or try to bring him out of his shell. They just sit in his silence and somehow make it feel less empty. That quiet understanding disarms him more than any act of affection ever could. It's not pity, it's presence. In that moment, something ancient inside him stirs, the part that remembers what it's like to be seen without being studied. He doesn't rush to fill the silence or explain himself. He just lets it be. The ego that usually guards his emotions has no argument to make, because this kind of connection doesn't threaten his independence. It respects it. That subtle recognition touches a part of him he thought he buried long ago. It reminds him that solitude and connection aren't opposites, they're mirrors. One shows him who he is alone, the other shows him who he could be when understood. When someone sees his loneliness without naming it, he doesn't fall in love, he simply softens. The walls stay up, but the gates quietly open. And in that rare exchange, the Sigma male experiences something he thought he'd outgrown. The quiet relief of being human, without explanation. Number 6. When they sense genuine innocence in a corrupted world. A Sigma male walks through life like a man who's seen every trick in the book, and probably written a few of his own. He's not cynical for sport, he's just seen enough deception to know that purity is rare and usually short-lived. His mind runs on logic, his instincts on observation, and his heart, well, it's usually kept under lock and key. Yet, every now and then, he crosses paths with someone whose innocence feels almost alien, someone untouched by manipulation, greed, or hidden motives. It could be a person who speaks without calculation, who gives without expecting, who still believes in goodness despite how cruel the world can be. That kind of unguarded purity doesn't make the Sigma trust them instantly, quite the opposite. It startles him. It forces him to pause, to examine how something so genuine can still exist in a world that's taught him to doubt everything. But what makes this moment profound is what happens next. Instead of analyzing that purity or testing it, the Sigma feels a deep, unspoken urge to protect it, not out of pity, but reverence. It's as if that innocence reminds him of something he lost long ago, the version of himself before the armor, before the detachment, before he decided emotional distance was safety. For once, his instincts don't calculate outcomes or defenses. They move toward preservation. He becomes gentler, quieter, more careful with his words. It's not about attraction or affection. It's about respect for something uncorrupted. That purity doesn't weaken him. It wakes him. In a world that rewards manipulation and masks, the Sigma's encounter with genuine innocence isn't just rare, it's healing. It reconnects him with his own buried softness, reminding him that not everything needs to be guarded or earned. Sometimes, the most powerful thing isn't control, it's the silent decision to protect what's still pure, even if it exposes a side of him he swore no one would ever see. Number 7. When precision fails them. Sigma males live in a world built on strategy. Every move, every word, every silence is deliberate. They rely on their ability to read patterns, predict behavior, and stay 3 steps ahead, not to dominate, but to protect their autonomy. Their mind is their weapon and their shield. Precision gives them control, and control gives them peace. But when that precision fails, when their perfect logic collapses under reality, something rare and unsettling happens. It's not the failure itself that shakes them. It's the realization that they miscalculated. For someone who prides himself on accuracy, being wrong isn't just a mistake. It's a rupture in identity. The Sigma suddenly faces the one thing he spends his life avoiding: unpredictability. The plan didn't work, the read was off, or the person he thought he understood blindsided him. It's in those moments that the man who usually moves with surgical precision feels something raw and uncomfortable: fallibility. But what makes this moment powerful isn't the frustration. It's the honesty that follows. For once, he can't hide behind intellect or stoic composure. He feels it, the sting of error, the weight of imperfection. And instead of doubling down or deflecting blame, he quietly absorbs it. That silence isn't pride, it's processing. It's the human part of him confronting the truth that even mastery has limits. Oddly, this brief crack in control doesn't destroy him, it refines him. When the shock fades, he emerges sharper, humbler, more self-aware. He realizes that real intelligence isn't about always being right. It's about staying calm when wrong. That humility becomes a deeper kind of precision, one that includes grace. When a Sigma's logic betrays him, his mask slips. But what shows beneath isn't weakness, it's reality. And that fleeting glimpse of unfiltered emotion, though rare, is often the moment that makes him most alive. Number 8. When they catch themselves. Laughing for real. For a Sigma male, laughter is rarely spontaneous. It's measured. He finds humor in irony, timing, or the quiet absurdity of life, but he doesn't often let himself laugh freely. Most of the time, his amusement lives behind a smirk or a brief exhale. More acknowledgement than expression. It's not that he lacks emotion, it's that he filters it. His laughter, like everything else about him, is under control. But once in a while, something bypasses all that calculation, and he catches himself laughing for real. That moment surprises him more than anyone else. It might be a joke that hits from an unexpected angle or a situation so ridiculous that logic simply collapses. Whatever it is, it cracks through his composure and pulls out an unguarded sound, raw, unfiltered, human. He doesn't plan it, doesn't suppress it, doesn't analyze it. For a few seconds, the man who's always in command loses control, and it feels liberating. That kind of laughter isn't just amusement, it's release. It's his subconscious exhaling after years of emotional precision. It exposes the part of him that still remembers joy without agenda, fun without thought, connection without performance. In that brief moment, he isn't the observer or the strategist. He's just present. And for someone who lives so much in his head, that presence feels electric. He might downplay it afterward, brush it off, or quietly retreat to regain composure. But deep down, he remembers it. That strange, fleeting warmth that made him feel alive in a way even success doesn't. Because when a Sigma laughs freely, he's not breaking character. He's returning to himself. It's the rare instant when his intellect takes a back seat and his humanity drives. And though he may never admit it, those few unguarded bursts of real laughter are the moments that remind him he's more than the mind he hides behind. They're proof that beneath the quiet control still beats a heart that remembers how to feel joy, unedited and real. Number 9. When they witness loyalty. Without agenda. A Sigma male is used to loyalty that comes with fine print. Most people pledge allegiance because there's something to gain: status, security, or access. He's seen it too many times to mistake attachment for authenticity. His mind is wired to detect motives, and his intuition almost always confirms them. So when someone shows loyalty with nothing to gain, no strategy, no manipulation, it stops him cold. At first, he doesn't trust it. He studies it like a strange phenomenon. He watches for signs of hidden motives, waiting for the eventual ask that never comes. But as time passes, and that loyalty remains steady, quiet, consistent, unadvertised, something inside him shifts. It's not disbelief anymore. It's disorientation. He's spent so long navigating people who only give to get that unconditional allegiance feels almost supernatural. That kind of loyalty doesn't flatter his ego. It reaches something deeper. For a Sigma, being seen without being sold to is rare. It tells him that his worth isn't tied to performance, status, or control. It's recognition without transaction. And that simplicity pierces through layers of guarded independence that no amount of charm or intellect could ever crack. He doesn't respond with sentiment or speeches. That's not his style. Instead, his guard drops quietly. His tone softens. His energy changes. For once, he doesn't feel the need to calculate or prove. He allows himself to reciprocate in his own understated way, through respect, loyalty in return, and silent protection. That's the beauty of it. When a Sigma witnesses loyalty without agenda, it doesn't make him emotional. It makes him human. It reconnects him to a truth he's long kept buried, that trust, when earned without strings, isn't a weakness but a rare strength. In a world full of manipulation, genuine loyalty feels almost rebellious. And for the Sigma male, it's one of the few forces powerful enough to melt the armor he thought he'd wear forever. Number 10. When a past version of themselves resurfaces. For a Sigma male, the past isn't a place he visits often. It's a file he's archived, labeled, and locked. He moves through life with forward motion, always evolving, always refining. He believes in progress, not sentiment. Yet every so often something small, a scent, a song, a half-familiar face, opens a hidden drawer in his mind, and out comes a version of himself he thought he'd outgrown. It happens in a flash. Logic has no say in it. The composed, calculated man suddenly feels the pulse of who he once was. The reckless dreamer, the naive believer, the softer self that hadn't yet learned the cost of trust. For a moment, the walls he's built around his emotions dissolve, and he's thrown back into a memory so vivid it feels alive. He doesn't crumble, he simply feels. The nostalgia is powerful. Not always sweet, sometimes sharp, sometimes filled with quiet regret. It's the ache of remembering how much he's changed, and how much he had to lose to become who he is now. He recognizes the innocence he shed, the faith he buried, The softness he replaced with solitude. And though he won't admit it aloud, that reflection humbles him. It's a rare moment of self-confrontation. The Sigma facing the man he used to be without judgment or shame. He realizes that the version he buried wasn't weak. It was necessary. It was the raw material that shaped his strength, the foundation of the calm, measured man he's become. When that past self resurfaces, he doesn't try to push it away anymore. He lets it stay for a while, acknowledging the beauty in his own evolution. Because even though he's mastered detachment, these flashes of humanity remind him that he didn't build his solitude out of arrogance. He built it out of survival. And in that recognition, the Sigma reconnects with something he rarely shows: gratitude for the scars, the memories, and the boy inside the man who never truly disappeared. Number 11. When they're faced with unfiltered respect. For a Sigma male, respect is sacred, not because he demands it, but because he knows how rare it truly is. Most of what people call respect is just performance, flattery disguised as praise, admiration laced with hidden motives, validation meant to gain favor. He can sense it instantly, the tone of voice that bends too much, the compliment that lands too perfectly. It doesn't impress him, it irritates him. Because beneath his calm exterior, the Sigma values truth over approval every single time. But genuine respect, the kind that comes without exaggeration, without ego, without agenda, that's different. It's quiet, grounded, and real. It comes from someone who sees him as a person, not a projection. Someone who acknowledges his mind, his integrity, or his strength without trying to worship it. That kind of respect doesn't feel like flattery. It feels like recognition. When he encounters it, something unexpected happens. His usual emotional defenses, the walls, the silence, the detachment, suddenly feel unnecessary. There's no need to analyze or deflect, no instinct to question motives. For a brief moment, he feels seen without being examined. It's disarming because it touches the one thing he hides the most, the desire to be valued without having to perform value. This unfiltered respect reminds him that he's not just a construct of control and composure, he's human. It reaches the side of him that rarely surfaces, the one that still wants connection but on honest terms. It softens his tone, slows his movements, and pulls him out of his perpetual watchfulness. He won't respond with emotion or gratitude. That's not his way. But internally, something shifts. He remembers that respect, when pure, doesn't threaten his independence. It strengthens it. It makes him feel less like an idea and more like a man. And for the Sigma, that's the real power. Not being admired, not being feared, but being respected for exactly who he is, without a single layer of disguise. Number 12. When their power becomes a prison. For a Sigma male, independence is everything. It's his defining code, the structure he's built his entire life around. His autonomy is what keeps him sane in a chaotic world, what separates him from the noise of dependency and control. But the same power that frees him also confines him, because over time that independence hardens. It turns from protection into isolation. What once felt like freedom starts to resemble a quiet, elegant cage. He doesn't notice it at first. The solitude feels productive, even powerful. He moves alone, decides alone, succeeds alone, and that solitude becomes his proof of strength. But then the silence stretches too long. The victories start to feel hollow. The conversations grow mechanical. That's when it hits him. His self-sufficiency has cost him more than he thought. The fortress that once gave him peace now echoes with the emptiness of everything he's shut out. For a brief moment, his composure falters. He doesn't break. He bends. He starts to see that control has its limits, that the constant need to protect himself from attachment has left him untouched by connection. It's a strange kind of loneliness, not the lack of people, but the lack of feeling. In those rare moments, he lets the armor breathe. He might reach out, not for help, but for warmth, a conversation, a small act of openness, a glimpse of vulnerability. He allows the air to enter his carefully sealed world, if only for a moment, to remind himself that he's still alive beneath the discipline. It's never dramatic, never public, but it's real. The Sigma realizes that his greatest strength, his self-reliance, is also his most elegant form of self-imprisonment. And so, for that fleeting pause, he lowers the drawbridge, not to surrender his power, but to make peace with it. Because true freedom isn't isolation. It's choosing when to let the world in without losing yourself in the process. Conclusion. Every Sigma male wears his solitude like armor, not because he hates the world, but because he's learned it too well. His quiet, his distance, his emotional precision, they're all layers of self-preservation built from experience. Yet, as we've seen, there are moments when even the fortress breathes, times when control bends, silence softens, and the man behind the myth reveals something startlingly human. It's not weakness that makes him drop his guard. It's truth. The truth that independence, for all its beauty, can become heavy. That strength means nothing if it never feels. That even the most self-contained souls still crave authenticity, not applause, not understanding, just something real. When a Sigma lets his walls slip, it's never for attention. It's because something, a gesture, a presence, a moment, reaches past his logic and touches the raw center he swore no one would ever find. It's rare, brief, and unspoken, but it's also powerful. Because those cracks don't destroy his power, they define it. They prove that underneath the composure lies a heart still capable of wonder, empathy, and connection, even if he never admits it aloud. These glimpses remind us that Sigma males aren't emotionless enigmas. They're masters of restraint, navigating a world that rewards performance over truth. Their humanity doesn't live in their control. It lives in the few moments they dare to lose it. And that's the paradox of the Sigma. His silence hides storms, his calm hides chaos, and his composure hides compassion. When his guard falls, even for a heartbeat, it's not a fall from grace. It's a return to it. If this deep dive into the hidden layers of the Sigma male spoke to you, if it gave you clarity, resonance, or even a little self-recognition, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit like, share this video with someone who needs to understand the unspoken strength behind silence, and drop a comment below. Let's keep building a space for truth, depth, and raw understanding. One Sigma insight at a time.